The fungus-ridden sandwich struck Darius Blackwood's first-class tray with calculated disdain, as Lydia Cross's mouth twisted into a smug, self-satisfied sneer. The distinguished CEO observed her theatrical performance with an icy, measured calm, his finger surreptitiously engaging the cabin surveillance interface he had personally commissioned as a silent stakeholder in Apex Horizons. Behind the galley partition, Lydia's hushed, derogatory whispers regarding how certain demographics didn't deserve premium seating were captured with crystal clarity. Every syllable sealed her professional doom, while Darius catalogued the indignity with patient precision, his calculated silence as he depressed the call button once more carrying a heavier threat than any shouted confrontation ever could. This wasn't anger, but a quiet, unyielding resolve that was about to transmute this routine flight into the most catastrophic miscalculation of Lydia's career. Before we proceed further, comment regarding your current location and ensure you have subscribed. Darius Blackwood smoothed the lapel of his bespoke suit as he eased into Seat 2A of Apex Horizons Flight 802 bound for San Francisco. The buttery leather of the first-class recliner enveloped him in that familiar, plush embrace he had come to anticipate from his extensive travels, a minor indulgence he permitted himself after 2 decades of erecting Blackwood systems from nothing. As the remaining passengers filed onto the aircraft, Darius retrieved his tablet, accessing an email detailing the quarterly performance metrics for Apex Horizons, the carrier he partially owned via a quiet investment partnership formalized 3 years prior. Good afternoon. A flight attendant welcomed the silver-haired gentleman across the aisle, her vocal quality warm and engaging. Welcome aboard, Mr. Caldwell. May I pour you a flute of our signature vintage champagne prior to departure? Darius tracked the exchange through his peripheral vision, while continuing to analyze the robust revenue data on his screen. Apex Horizons had seen a 15% surge in the luxury travel sector under his strategic direction, though barely a handful of employees knew of his influence beyond the executive boardroom. He preferred this anonymity, experiencing the airline exactly as a paying customer would, gathering raw data that spreadsheets and satisfaction surveys could never authentically replicate. The flight attendant, whose name tag identified her as Lydia, moved with practiced efficiency through the cabin, offering hot towels and crystal flutes to the travelers in the forward rows. Darius noted her radiant smile dim noticeably as she neared his seat, her gaze darting briefly to his dark skin before fixing on a point just above his shoulder. "Towel?" she queried, her temperature distinctively frigid compared to her earlier warmth with other guests. "Yes, thank you," Darius responded with the effortless poise of a man inured to such microaggressions. He took the towel with a courteous nod, observing as Lydia drifted to the passenger directly behind him, her voice instantly reanimating with brightness as she proffered champagne and a gracious welcome. Darius refocused on his tablet, scrolling to the customer satisfaction indices he had personally advocated for as critical benchmarks of the airline's health. The irony was palpable as he awaited his own pre-departure beverage, the specific libation he had reserved when purchasing his fare. Exactly as he anticipated, 10 minutes evaporated. The rest of the first-class cabin received their refreshments, including a middle-aged couple who boarded after Darius, and were now savoring sparkling wine from crystal glasses. Darius shut his tablet and depressed the call button, his finger hovering for a split second as he weighed whether the skirmish was worth the energy. With a silent, grounding exhale, he pressed it decisively. Lydia reappeared, her jaw set tight. "Yes, sir. I believe I am still awaiting my pre-departure drink," Darius stated, his vocal timbre level and corporate. "I pre-selected the Highland 18 when I reserved my seat." "Oh," Lydia retorted, her eyes flicking toward the galley. "I don't see that listed in our system. We are actually depleting our stock of premium spirits for this leg. I can bring you orange juice or water if you'd rather." Darius looked past her, spotting the fully laden bar cart being staged for service. "That is peculiar. I received a confirmation email explicitly verifying my beverage choice." He summoned the email on his screen and presented it to Lydia. "Perhaps you could verify again." "Sir, as I stated, our inventory is restricted today," Lydia replied, her tone turning increasingly brush-off. The system occasionally oversells specific items. I will fetch you some orange juice. Before Darius could issue a rejoinder, Lydia had already pivoted away, leaving him to watch as she whispered something to another crew member who glanced his way with a barely veiled smirk. Darius inhaled deeply, centering himself, and returned to his tablet, launching the secure comms app he used to interface with his executive assistant, Tanya. He keyed in a concise directive. Experiencing some intriguing service anomalies on Apex Flight 802. Likely nothing, but create a reminder to speak with Elena in HR upon my return. The captain's voice resonated over the PA, announcing their imminent pushback and thanking guests for flying Apex Horizons. Darius restored his seat to the upright position and stowed his device, watching as Lydia passed out warm, spiced nuts to the passengers surrounding him. When she arrived at his row, she deposited a small foil bag of pretzels on his tray, the variety standard for economy class, before continuing her circuit. Darius inspected the sealed packet with a clinical detachment that masked the slow burn of realization igniting in his gut. This was not mere incompetence, or an oversight. The pattern was becoming undeniable. As the jet began to taxi toward the tarmac, Darius reopened his messaging app and fired another text to Tanya. On second thought, contact Elena immediately. I need to know if there have been other service grievances filed by minority passengers in first class over the last quarter. And remind me, when did we activate the cabin surveillance grid in the premium sections? The reply was instantaneous. System went live 3 months ago fleet-wide. All footage archived for 30 days. Should I be worried? Darius watched as Lydia and another attendant vanished behind the galley curtain. Their muffled laughter floated back into the cabin. Not yet, he typed. But keep your phone close. I might require you to make some calls before we touch down. The engines roared as the plane gathered speed down the runway, and Darius felt the familiar compression against his chest as they lifted into the overcast sky. What was intended to be a tranquil 6-hour journey was rapidly mutating into something else entirely. A trial of patience, professionalism, and ethics that would trigger consequences rippling far beyond this transit from New York to San Francisco. The fasten seatbelt sign extinguished with a soft ping as they hit cruising altitude, signaling the crew to commence their service routine. Darius Blackwood shut his eyes momentarily, flashing back to the board gathering just 3 years prior when he had pitched the massive investment in Apex Horizons. His fellow directors at Blackwood Systems had challenged the logic of branching into aviation. But Darius had visualized the chance to revolutionize an industry riddled with plummeting standards and rising consumer hostility. The silent partnership was a strategic masterstroke, permitting him to audit operations authentically while driving evolution from the top down. Tanya's reply lit up his tablet. HR database reveals 17 formal grievances from minority travelers in first class over the last year. 5 explicitly named flight attendant Lydia Cross. 3 were tossed for lack of proof and 2 ended in travel vouchers, but 0 disciplinary measures. Surveillance grid is fully active on your vessel. Elena is standing by for your directive. Darius acknowledged the intel with a quick tap, feeling that familiar burden descend on his shoulders. The standard of proof always seemed steeper for some. He slid the tablet into his blazer pocket as Lydia approached with the meal trolley, her rehearsed smile resurfacing as she served the passenger across the aisle. Mr. Caldwell, we have your special request prepared. The seared salmon with truffle risotto and a glass of the Montrachet you asked for. Compliments of the chef, she chirped, meticulously centering the fine china before the silver-haired man. The scent of the gourmet dish drifted through the cabin as Lydia continued serving every traveler with solicitous attention. Darius observed the ceremony, noting how she leaned in to describe the wine pairing to a young duo, how she recalled another guest's desire for extra rolls. When she finally arrived at his row, Lydia's demeanor cooled imperceptibly as she deposited a covered dish before him without making eye contact. Your meal, she announced flatly, already pivoting to leave. Darius lifted the cloche to reveal a desiccated sandwich on visibly stale bread, a small plastic cup of tepid apple juice sitting next to it. The disparity between his provender and the feasts around him was glaring enough to pull curious looks from neighbors. Excuse me. Darius projected, his voice serene but solid enough to arrest Lydia's departure. "I believe there has been an error with my dining service. I pre-ordered the chef's special when I booked this flight." Lydia turned back, her face a mask of neutrality. "I am sorry, sir, but we have no log of that request. We are serving what is available." "That is fascinating," Darius countered, retrieving his phone to showcase his confirmation email. "Because I have the digital receipt right here alongside your system's verification of my dietary profile and meal choice." Lydia barely flicked her eyes at the screen. "As I clarified regarding your drink, our system occasionally overallocates specific items. There simply isn't sufficient premium inventory to accommodate everyone today." The passenger across the aisle, Caldwell, looked up from his salmon, fork hovering, as he tracked the dialogue with thinly disguised interest. Darius noted the audience but kept his laser focus on Lydia. "I see an abundance of premium meals being distributed," he noted, motioning discreetly to the surrounding cabin. "Perhaps you could elucidate why I am the sole passenger in first class receiving what looks to be an economy ration." Lydia's smile grew brittle. "Sir, we must prioritize specific guests based on status and loyalty tier. I promise you this is standard protocol. I am a Platinum Elite holder," Darius stated flatly. "I have logged over 200,000 miles with this carrier in the last 12 months alone." "I will consult my supervisor," Lydia replied, her tone signaling she had zero intention of doing so. She vanished behind the curtain, leaving Darius with the unpalatable food. Darius sat statue still for a beat, weighing his moves. 2 decades of maneuvering through corporate America as a black executive had schooled him in the art of picking battles. This specific war, he concluded, was worth waging, not merely for himself, but for the 17 others who had lodged complaints, and the likely scores more who had swallowed the indignity as the price of admission. He hit the call button again, waiting with stoic patience as minutes ticked by sans response. Eventually, a different attendant walked up. A younger male whose badge read, "Gavin. Can I assist you?" Gavin asked, his inflection implying that assistance was the last thing on his mind. "Yes," Darius replied, holding his professional posture. "I wish to speak with the purser regarding a discrepancy with my meal service." Gavin's eyes narrowed a fraction. "Lydia is managing this zone. What appears to be the issue?" "I pre-selected a meal that never arrived, and I have been served what looks like an economy option instead," Darius detailed, conscious that several passengers were now openly spectating. "When I queried this, I was informed that certain passengers were being prioritized, despite my Platinum Elite standing." "Sir, occasionally we must institute service modifications mid-flight," Gavin declared, his voice adopting a patronizing lilt. "I am certain Lydia clarified this. We simply cannot satisfy every bespoke request." Darius nodded slowly, memorizing Gavin's employee number as he spoke. "I comprehend service modifications. What escapes me is why everyone in my vicinity received the premium meal they ordered while I was handed this." He hoisted the sandwich, which had started to curl at the corners from dryness. "Maybe you could clarify the criteria utilized for these adjustments." Gavin's stance grew rigid. "Sir, I am going to have to request you lower your volume. You are bothering other guests." Darius had not raised his volume a decibel, and he was acutely aware that the only disturbance was the one generated by the glaring inequality in service. A hush fell over the first-class cabin as passengers swapped uneasy looks. Some pointedly returned to their food while others continued to watch with naked curiosity. "I have not elevated my voice," Darius stated calmly. "I am merely requesting a rationale for the service disparity." Behind Gavin, Lydia reappeared, whispering something to her peer before both withdrew to the galley. Through the slightly parted curtain, Darius caught a flash of them huddled with a third crew member, all three periodically glancing his way. Darius reached for his phone once more, opening his email to locate the direct line for Elena Ross, the head of HR at Apex Horizons. As he drafted a message outlining the unfolding scenario, he sensed a presence at his elbow. Looking up, he found the silver-haired Mr. Caldwell standing there, clutching his half-eaten plate of salmon. Couldn't help but overhear, Caldwell murmured, his voice dropped. Been flying this route for 15 years, and I have never witnessed anything like this. It isn't right. He hesitated, seemingly measuring his next words. Do you want me to say something? Darius valued the offer but gave a small head shake. Thank you, but I have this in hand. He returned his focus to his phone, appending another paragraph to his email as the crew continued their hushed conference behind the curtain, oblivious to the silent dossier being compiled or the storm brewing on the digital horizon. Darius placed his phone down and warily inspected the sandwich in front of him. The crust had a distinct greenish hue that became more obvious as he delicately lifted the top slice. Dark spores of mold speckled the underside, validating what his gut had already screamed. This wasn't just lousy service, it was calculated malice. He carefully reassembled the sandwich and slid the plate away, his hunger annihilated by the find. Is everything satisfactory with your meal, sir? It was Gavin again, his voice dripping with a sarcasm that wasn't missed by the nearby travelers. No, it is not, Darius replied evenly, pointing to the sandwich. There is visible mold on this bread. I wish to speak with the captain regarding this. Gavin leaned in, inspecting the food with exaggerated skepticism. I don't see anything abnormal. Perhaps you are mistaken. I assure you I am not, Darius declared, holding his cool despite the mounting provocation. This bread is objectively spoiled. And I want to know why I was served it when everyone else received fresh, premium meals. Lydia materialized beside Gavin, her face flushed with what looked like annoyance rather than shame. Is there an issue here again? Yes, there is, Darius answered, shifting his gaze to Lydia. I have been served moldy bread while everyone around me enjoys their premium dishes. I have asked repeatedly for an explanation, and thus far I have received nothing but deflections and dismissals. Lydia's eyes tightened, a flicker of something more sinister than irritation crossing her face. Sir, if you dislike what we served, you are free to leave it. But I will not have you disrupting this flight with groundless accusations. Groundless? Darius repeated, his voice steady despite the blatant psychological manipulation. The physical proof is right here, he motioned to the food. I would like to know why I am receiving this treatment when I have been nothing but courteous. Maybe because some people don't know how to show gratitude for what they are handed, Lydia muttered, just audible enough for Darius and several neighbors to catch, always demanding special handling. The remark hung in the pressurized air, its subtext screaming. An awkward silence smothered the first-class cabin as passengers shifted, some feigning deafness, others exchanging knowing looks. Darius felt his heart rate spike, but decades of navigating these waters had taught him that losing his temper would only validate the caricature people like Lydia clearly harbored. I do not desire special handling, Darius clarified, his voice steel yet controlled. I simply desire equal handling, the same menu options, the same service, and the same respect granted to every other passenger who purchased a first-class fare. Lydia's posture changed, her professional veneer cracking further as she leaned toward Darius, dropping her volume. Listen, I don't know how you got into this cabin, but we both know you don't belong here, so why don't you just sit silently and be thankful you aren't back in coach wear? Lydia? Gavin cut in, suddenly realizing several passengers had angled their phones to record. That is sufficient. Let's discuss this in the galley. As the two attendants withdrew behind the curtain, Darius exhaled slowly, cataloging the event. The woman's bias had finally breached the surface, explicitly confirming what her actions had implied. Darius reached for his phone again, this time launching the Apex Horizons executive portal, a secure interface available only to top-tier leadership. With a few swipes, he tapped into the live feed from the cabin surveillance grid, verifying the cameras were rolling. Behind the galley curtain, elevated voices leaked into the cabin despite efforts to maintain privacy. I cannot believe these people. Lydia's voice cut through a lull in the engine drone. He likely used points or some diversity quota to get up here. Did you see his attire? Acting like he owns the jet. Darius's finger hovered over the message icon, debating whether to alert Elena instantly or let the scene play out. The choice was made for him when the curtain split, and a third crew member stepped out, the purser, judging by her insignia. Mr. Blackwood, she started, her tone professionally bland but underlined with tension. I understand there has been some confusion regarding your meal service. I want to assure you that we take all passenger concerns to heart. Thank you, Darius replied, noting her tactical use of his surname. Clearly, someone had finally checked the manifest. As I detailed to your team, I pre-ordered a meal that never arrived and instead received food that appears to be spoiled. The purser nodded, her face carefully blank. We are looking into it. In the interim, I can offer you a selection from our business class menu if that suffices. What I find intriguing, Darius replied, bypassing the downgraded offer, is that your colleague implied this treatment was deliberate with rather specific insinuations about why I might be receiving it. The purser's professional mask fractured slightly. I am certain there has been a misunderstanding. Lydia is one of our most seasoned attendants. Tenure does not prevent prejudice, Darius noted softly, aware the neighbors were hanging on every word. In fact, sometimes it merely offers more chances to exercise it. The PA's system crackled to life abruptly, and the captain's voice flooded the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Mercer speaking. Our flight attendants have apprised me of a situation in the first-class cabin. I want to remind all passengers that crew directives must be obeyed at all times for safety reasons. Any disruptive conduct will not be brooked. The message was unambiguous. Darius was being painted as the aggressor. He scanned the cabin, seeing how several passengers were now eyeing him with a blend of intrigue and suspicion. The story was being rewritten in real time, twisting his reasonable request for equity into a disturbance requiring the captain's interference. The purser stood taller, emboldened by the captain's implied backing. Mr. Blackwood, I must ask you to accept the situation as is. We are doing our best to accommodate everyone. Darius held her gaze. What specifically about my conduct has been disruptive? I haven't raised my voice. I haven't made demands beyond asking for the service I purchased. I haven't refused any safety directives. Sir, your continued questioning of our protocols is generating tension, the purser replied, her tone calcifying. I am going to have to ask you to drop the subject. Darius caught movement in his side vision. Mr. Caldwell had stood up again, moving with purposeful strides. Excuse me, the older man interrupted, facing the purser. I have been watching this, and frankly, your treatment of this man has been abysmal. He has been nothing but civil while being served moldy food and spoken to like a child. The purser pivoted to Caldwell, her face softening instantly. Sir, I value your concern. But this is a crew matter. Is it? Caldwell challenged, his voice ringing through the cabin. Because from my seat, it looks like blatant discrimination. I have been flying Apex for over 20 years, and I have never seen such poor service or disrespect toward a passenger. A hum of assent rose from several others. The tide of opinion was visibly turning as people began to link Darius's treatment to his skin color. The purser's face tightened as she realized she was losing the narrative. We will bring you something from business class immediately, Mr. Blackwood, she stated abruptly, turning to flee to the galley. That won't be required, Darius called after her, his voice calm but projecting. What is required is an explanation for why I am being treated differently from everyone else in this cabin. The purser halted, visibly rattled by the direct challenge. Before she could answer, the curtain parted again, and Captain Mercer himself stepped out, his face etched in stern lines as he surveyed first class. His eyes locked on Darius with unmistakable animosity. Sir, the captain began, his voice laden with ultimate authority. I understand you are causing a disturbance. I need to inform you that if this conduct persists, I will be compelled to divert the flight for the safety of all souls on board. The threat hung in the air as Darius calmly reached for his tablet, opening his executive email with deliberate motions. Captain Mercer, I suggest you rethink that strategy. I haven't caused any disturbance, as numerous witnesses here can verify. What I have done is question why I have been targeted for substandard service and disrespectful treatment. The captain's expression darkened. Sir, as commander of this vessel, my judgment of what constitutes a disturbance is absolute. I am giving you one final chance to comply with crew directives and cease this disruptive behavior. What specific directive have I failed to obey? Darius asked, his finger poised over the send key on an email addressed to the airline's board. An email that would hit their inboxes long before the wheels touched down at any diversion airport. The captain didn't reply instantly, perhaps sensing the fragility of his ground. In the pause, the purser leaned in to whisper something in his ear. His face changed almost imperceptibly, a shadow of doubt entering his eyes. This isn't about obeying orders, Darius continued, seizing the hesitation. This is about being treated with fundamental dignity, and receiving the service every passenger here paid for. The only disruption has been manufactured by your crew's discriminatory acts. A tension headache began to throb at Darius's temples as he held the captain's gaze. Neither man willing to fold in what had morphed from a service glitch into a defining clash of principles. Behind them, the cabin was tomb silent. The collective focus of every traveler locked on the drama. The captain's looming presence dominated the space as the standoff dragged on. Every passenger was now fully invested. Time seemed to dilate as Darius calculated his moves, his mind cycling through outcomes with the strategic rigor that had steered his business life. He could capitulate, eat the insults, swallow his pride, and keep the peace everyone seemed so desperate to hoard. It was the path of least resistance, one he had walked in his youth, when building a career took precedence over fighting the daily cuts. The memory of those concessions left a bitter residue, far more toxic than the moldy bread. Or he could plant his feet, not just for himself, but for everyone dismissed, diminished, or erased because of their melanin. The cameras were rolling. The witnesses were alert. The evidence was stacking up. This wasn't about a meal anymore. It was about accountability in a machine built to evade it. Captain Mercer, Darius finally spoke, his voice carrying a quiet power that demanded listening. Before you make a decision that impacts everyone on this jet, I think there is a fact you should know. I have made my decision, the captain cut in, jaw tight with suppressed rage. This is my aircraft, and I will not tolerate any passenger undermining my crew. Darius nodded slowly, finger hovering over send. That is exactly the issue, Captain. You have made a decision based on corrupted data. You haven't once asked for my side, yet you are ready to inconvenience hundreds of people by diverting. The captain's eyes narrowed dangerously. Sir, this is your last warning. Comply or I will declare an emergency and land at the nearest tarmac. And what directive should I comply with? Darius asked, cool as ice. So far, I have been told to eat moldy food, be grateful for bias, and stay silent in the face of racism. Which of these do you deem lawful? A flicker of doubt crossed the captain's face, quickly covered by renewed grit. This isn't about race. This is about order. It became about race the second your attendant decided I didn't belong in first class, Darius countered, eyes unblinking. It became about race when I was served rot while neighbors feasted. It became about race when your crew made explicit remarks about my presence. Behind the captain, Lydia had stepped out, face flushed with panic as she watched the spiral. Captain, perhaps we should. Mr. Blackwood is correct. Mr. Caldwell's voice sliced through the tension, pulling all eyes to the silver-haired man standing by Darius. I watched the whole thing, as did others. Your attendant made explicitly racist comments, and served this man spoiled food on purpose. If you divert, you are doing it solely to punish a man for asking for dignity. Murmurs of support rippled through the cabin. A woman across the aisle held up her phone. I recorded parts of it. She clearly said he doesn't belong here. Captain Mercer's authority was disintegrating as the cabin united against the lie. His eyes darted around, the chorus of dissent eroding his stance. Captain, Darius said, tone deliberate. I am giving you a chance to handle this like a professional. Address the discrimination, or compound the error by diverting without cause, a choice that will have fallout far beyond today. The implication hung heavy. The captain's jaw worked. Behind him, Lydia vanished back into the galley, urgent whispers drifting out. Darius held his ground. The confrontation had hit the apex. Backing down now would only feed the beast he had seen, not just here, but across his own company. The duty to act pressed on him. With deliberate calm, Darius pressed send on the email to the board, a missive detailing the bias and demanding a review of the footage. The soft swoosh of the sent email seemed to echo in the silence. I have just communicated with the executive team, Darius announced, voice clear. I have requested a review of the surveillance footage, which will prove my account. I have also warned them you might divert without cause. The captain scowled. Surveillance? There are no cameras here. Actually, Captain, there are. Darius corrected him, matter of fact. The premium cabin grid was installed 3 months ago fleet-wide. Every interaction, including the galley chats, is on the secure servers. The blood drained from Mercer's face. Behind the curtain, Lydia's voice spiked in terror. The captain reached for his radio, hesitated, then froze. Captain! Darius pressed the advantage. I know you are in a bind. You were fed lies, and you are trying to keep order, but the facts are recorded. The question is how you proceed. The PA crackled. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your first officer. We are having technical difficulties with our route. The captain will return to the deck to assess. Please remain seated. The lie was transparent. Mercer's face shifted from arrogance to fear. Without a word, he turned and marched to the cockpit, leaving a wake of whispers. The purser approached Darius, demeanor transformed. Mr. Blackwood, I want to apologize. We will get you a business-class meal now. This isn't about the meal, Darius replied. This is about a pattern of bias tolerated by this airline. The purser's mask slipped, revealing fear. Sir, Apex has strict policies. This was an isolated event. Was it? Darius interrupted. Because record shows 17 complaints from minority passengers in first class this year. 5 naming Lydia Cross. That sounds systematic. The purser recoiled, realizing she was out of her depth. Behind the curtain, Lydia's voice rose. How does he know about cameras? What else does he know? The PA crackled again. Mercer's voice strained. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain. After consulting ATC, we must deviate. We will be landing in Denver in 50 minutes for a technical concern. We apologize. Darius exhaled. The captain chose escalation. He was diverting to kick Darius off. Darius opened his app, typing to Tanya. Denver landing confirmed. Full intervention needed. Contact Elena. Team at the gate. Full review. Mercer is diverting to remove me. The reply was instant. On it. Elena deploying to Denver. Board notified. Stand by. Around him, passengers grumbled. The ripple of discrimination was now hitting everyone. As the jet nosed down toward Denver, Darius leaned back, calm in the eye of the storm. The fight had grown beyond the sandwich. Here was the crossroads. Here's Block 4. Tension builds for first-class justice. First-class justice, Block 4. Tension builds. The air in the cabin thickened as the plane dipped toward the Rockies. Whispers flew across the aisles, eyes darting to Darius, while the crew avoided looking at anyone, moving like robots. Darius remained zen, replaying the sequence that led here. Every second crystallized as evidence. His tablet pinged. Tanya again. Elena confirmed surveillance is live. Legal is downloading. HR and airport officials will meet you at gate B17. CO is watching. Darius gave a microscopic nod. The corporate gears were turning. Systems he built were coming online. He always believed change needed ideals and gears. Today, the gears would grind. Mercer's voice came over the PA, tight. Cabin crew, prepare for landing. 15 minutes. Through the gap in the curtain, Darius saw Lydia and Gavin spiraling. Lydia's hands were flying, Gavin staring at his phone, face dark. Darius couldn't hear the words, but the panic was loud. Another ping. Tanya. Audio recovered. Transcript attached. Darius opened the file. A transcript of the galley chat. Lydia, I can't believe this. Who does he think he is? Gavin, I told you to just give him the meal. Lydia, so he can act like he owns the place? These people need to learn. Gavin, sure. Lydia, what? First coach, now first class. Next they'll fly the planes. Captain Mercer, what is the situation? Lydia, passenger in 2A is disruptive. Captain, how? Lydia, complaining accusations. Gavin, he is confrontational. Captain, threats? Lydia, not exactly, but his attitude. He plays the race card. Captain, I see. I'll handle it. Lydia, just divert. Get him off. No fly list. Captain, let me handle it. If he doesn't cooperate, we will. Darius closed the file, feeling a mix of vindication and exhaustion. The naked hate was documented. It wasn't a mistake. It was a conspiracy. Caldwell leaned over. You seem remarkably chill for a guy being diverted. Almost like you expected it. Darius met his gaze. Let's say I planned for contingencies. Caldwell nodded. Investment banking? Tech? Darius smiled. Blackwood Systems. Caldwell's eyes widened. You're Darius Blackwood. Realization hit. You built the digital backbone for the Fortune 500. Darius shrugged modestly. Caldwell grinned. Captain Mercer just made a massive tactical error. The wheels slammed onto the Denver runway, reverse thrusters roaring. The post-landing speech was terse. Stay seated. Security procedures. Darius's phone buzzed. The red line. Tanya. Darius, you good? I'm fine, he murmured. Ground sitrep? Elena and the team are at the gate. Security knows it's internal. They are standing down. Footage is conclusive. Chairman called an emergency session for tomorrow. He said clean house if you have to. Darius nodded. The weight settled. This was bigger than a sandwich. It was a culture war. The jet stopped. No movement. Silence. Mercer came out, uniform crisp, face tight. Mr. Blackwood, he said, voice flat. I need you to deplane first. Representatives are waiting. Darius looked him in the eye. I know, Captain. But before I go, why are we here? For the record. Mercer's jaw ticked. As I said, technical concern. Which one? Darius pressed. The one that appeared after I questioned racism? Mercer looked around, sweating. Sir, this is not the place. Customer service will handle it. I think this is the place, Darius countered, gesturing to the room. These people are stuck. They deserve truth. Was it technical, or was it an ego trip to remove a black man who didn't want moldy bread? The question hung there. Passengers leaned in. Mercer calculated. No good moves. I made a decision based on available intel. He hedged. Which intel? Darius drilled. That I asked for equality? Or Lydia's tip that I didn't belong? Murmurs rose. Mercer turned red, authority crumbling. Conversation over. He snapped. Security will escort you. The door opened. But instead of cops, a woman in a sharp suit walked in, flanked by Apex execs. Elena Ross. Captain Mercer. She said, ice cold. No security needed. Mr. Blackwood stays. Mercer blinked. Ma'am, I determined. Your determination is overruled. Elena cut him off, nodding to Darius. Mr. Blackwood, on behalf of Apex, I apologize. This behavior is unacceptable. Mercer cycled through shock and rage. Ms. Ross, I am the commander. Not anymore. An exec stepped in. You are relieved pending investigation. Replacement crew is loading in the back. They will finish the run. Mercer went pale. He looked at Darius, really looked at him, trying to math it out. Who are you? He whispered. Darius met his gaze. Someone who thought you could do better, he said. Someone who still does. The cabin was dead quiet. Mercer stood there, stripped naked in front of the crowd. Lydia and Gavin hovered, looking sick. Diane Ross turned to them. Ms. Cross, Mr. Barton, she said. Grab your bags. You are suspended. Lydia stepped up, indignant. This is a joke. We did nothing. He was difficult. The captain made the call. Elena held up her tablet. Playing the video. Ms. Cross, we have audio and video of the galley chat. I suggest you comply. Lydia went white. She looked at the ceiling, spotting the cameras. You can't. Privacy. Page 17 of your contract, Elena cited. Monitoring for quality. You signed it. Darius watched, feeling no joy, just fatigue. The system worked. But it shouldn't have been needed. Mercer turned to Darius, desperate. You planned this. You baited us. Captain, Darius said. I planned a trip to San Francisco. You did the rest. Mercer shut his mouth, turned, and walked. A dead man walking. Lydia and Gavin followed, shooting daggers. The cabin exhaled. Tension broke. Whispers exploded. Phones came out. Elena leaned in. Mr. Blackwood, we are so sorry. This is a total failure. Darius nodded. Thank you, Elena. But we have systemic rot. Agreed, she said. Replacement crew is here. Can we do anything? Darius looked at the crowd. Yes, he said. But I want to talk to the passengers. They are victims too. Elena nodded. I'll set up the intercom. Darius's phone buzzed. Jessica. Chairman wants to talk. Media is sniffing around. Darius typed. I'll call when airborne. No comment yet. Legal statement, transparency and reform. This is an opportunity. News alert popped up. Apex diversion. Discrimination. It was out. Caldwell leaned over. Hell of a twist, he murmured. Flying 20 years, never saw that. Part owner? Darius smiled. Silent partner. Better data. Caldwell nodded. Smart. Though today's data was rough. Necessary, Darius said. Invisible problems need to be seen. The new crew boarded. Captain Evelyn Wright took the mic crisp, no ego. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Wright here. We are taking over. Moving in 20. Thanks for patience. Applause broke out. Wright stopped by Darius. Mr. Blackwood, firm handshake. We are committed to excellence. I heard you want to speak. Darius nodded. With your permission. They need to know. Absolutely, she said. Let me know when. Elena handed Darius a clipboard. Preliminary reports. Darius scanned them. Clinical descriptions of hate. Timestamps. It looked small on paper. But he felt the size of it. The replacement crew settled. Darius stood up. Walked to the front. Elena handed him the handset. Time to turn poison into medicine. The cabin hushed. All eyes on the man in the suit. Here's Block 6, the landing and revelation. For first-class justice, first-class justice. Block 6. The landing and revelation. Ladies and gentlemen. Darius began, voice steady on the mic. My name is Darius Blackwood. I want to explain why we are here. Silence. Absolute focus. Some of you saw the first act. I asked for my meal. I got spoiled food and racial slurs. Darius paused. Heads nodded. Shock and economy. When I asked why, I was labeled aggressive. Captain Mercer diverted to Denver to kick me off. Not for safety. To silence me. Gasps. Darius went on. What they didn't know is that I am a part owner of Apex Horizons. 3 years ago, I bought in to build a company that respects everyone. I installed the cameras that caught them. The penny dropped. Faces lit up. That surveillance caught it all. The slurs behind the curtain. The fake emergency. It's been reviewed. That crew is gone. Darius shifted gears, softening. I know this wrecked your day. Plans ruined. I am sorry. He took a breath. To own this, Apex is refunding every ticket on this bird. Plus $10,000 compensation. Plus 5 years of platinum status. Silence. Then boom. Shock. Applause. Cheers. Economy passengers stood up. $10,000? Unheard of. This isn't just money, Darius said. It's an acknowledgement. When we let bias slide, we all pay. He handed the mic back. Elena took over logistics. Darius sat down, adrenaline crashing. He was tired. Passengers lined up. Handshakes. Stories. Thank you for fighting back. A young black woman whispered, most of us can't. That hit him hard. Privilege as a weapon. Caldwell sat back. Statement made. He noted. Expensive lesson. The money is irrelevant, Darius said. Now they have a stake. They are participants, not just audience. They will remember the justice, not just the crime. Caldwell nodded. Long game. I have to, Darius said. It's about breaking the idea that some spaces aren't for us. The jet leveled off. Service resumed. Perfect. Professional. Darius opened his tablet. Presentation for the board. The footage was the smoking gun. But he needed to show the pattern. Phone rang. Robert Chin. Chairman. Darius Chin said. I saw the footage. Disturbing. Mildly put, Darius said. The cost of your offer is huge. The board will scream. The cost of the alternative is higher, Darius said. Lawsuits. Brand death. This is an investment. Chin sighed. I trust you. But tomorrow, headlines. That's why our response must be louder, Darius said. Systemic reform. Training. Hiring. I'm presenting tomorrow. Some will fight, Chin warned. Then I show the data, Darius said. 17 complaints. A pattern. Not a fluke. Chin sighed again. You have my back. See you at 8. Darius hung up. People were checking banking apps. The money was hitting. Diane moved fast. It was a start. The flight went smooth. Service as it should be. As San Francisco loomed, Darius finished his notes. Tomorrow was the real fight. Here's a tighter version of Block 7 with more dialogue for first-class justice. First-class justice Block 7. The aftermath begins. The Apex response team met Darius on the jetway. Grim faces. James Peterson, COO, stepped up. Darius saw the tape. Inexcusable. Yes, Darius said. Now we fix it. Board meeting at 8. Story is viral. Inside the terminal, a war room. Data screens. A young analyst pointed. Statistical disparity in satisfaction scores. Premium cabin. Minorities rank lower. How many triggered probes? Darius asked. Diane stepped up. Almost none. Classified as isolated. Or designed to be ignored, Darius said. Systems reflect values. James winced. The cameras showed what we couldn't see. Wouldn't see, Darius corrected. Audit every complaint from the last 5 years. Diane nodded. Notification. Lydia and Mercer released statements claiming misunderstanding. Legal approached. $10 million payout. Board will panic. Let them, Darius said. Better than the cost of ignoring it. Darius called Tanya. Footage secured? Triple backed up, she said. Good. Tomorrow we change the system. Robert Chin texted. Media wants blood. No interviews, Darius replied. Statement only. Focus on reform. A black executive walked up. 20 years here. Thank you? This isn't just your fight. Darius nodded. The board won't like it. But we make the evidence undeniable. James, Darius shouted. I want service records for every crew member with a complaint. Who reviewed them? That's hundreds. James said. Get started, Darius said. The board gets them all. The boardroom was quiet. Darius finished. The footage froze on Lydia's sneer. Ladies, gentlemen, Darius said. This is systemic. 78 dismissed complaints. Charles Whitfield, old guard, leaned in. Behavior is bad, but $10 million? For a sandwich? It wasn't a sandwich, Darius said. It was a diversion based on racism. The money buys us credibility. Victoria Hayes tapped the binder. Implementation costs are millions. Consider the alternative, Darius said. Class actions. Viral hate. Robert Chin nodded. Lead or bleed. The debate raged for 3 hours. Darius stuck to data. Not emotion. Truth. The vote, 11-3. Reform approved. We issue a statement, Chin said. Transparency. Diane walked up with a timeline. Training starts next week. Cameras in 3 months. Review committee? Darius smiled. Show me the list. Tonight. The morning sun hit C2A. 6 months later. Darius sat down. New interior. New vibe. Sarah Johnson, head attendant, smiled. Real warmth. Good morning, Mr. Blackwood. Highland 18 is ready. Need anything? Just a towel, Darius said. She dropped an envelope. From the crew. Inside, a note. Mr. Blackwood, you changed the industry. We are proud to work here. Thank you. Crew of Flight 802. Darius pocketed it. Thinking of the old crew. Lydia, Gavin, Mercer. They fought it. Union reps, then the footage played. Game over. Fired. Blacklisted. Mercer lost his license for 6 months. FAA probe. Lydia tried the media. Backfired. Now flying regional economy. The real win was the system. Training adopted by 3 other airlines. Review committee working. Cameras everywhere. Deterrence. Darius opened the quarterly report. Bookings up. Brand trust up. People like the truth. Captain Hernandez came on the mic. Welcome to Flight 802. 6 months ago, Darius was an intruder. Today, just a passenger. The note rustled in his pocket. It wasn't about the meal. It was about the welcome. As the plane lifted, Darius closed his eyes. The simple pleasure of belonging. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.